This video is going to be about attribute and skill design, and it may branch off into a diverge into something else, but that's what we're going to talk about. So, particularly with the decisions I made in RIN, and that's pretty much what this video is, the perspective the video is going to have. So, as far as attributes and skills, and I call them, checks when your character is trying to do something, you can have generic skill systems. There's skill that every class has access to and every class can attempt, kind of like fifth edition, third edition for the most part. A lot of different just have like large skill. It just matters how skilled you are at a given, how like proficient you are at a given skill, but anybody can attempt it. So even the barbarian can attempt an arcane lore check. The skills mean something a little bit more mundane usually in those systems. Rin's approach is to have attributes, which this in itself is its own discussion. I found that 5 attributes worked really well, and they're similar to D&D. You have the classic 6 that everybody knows about, but in Rin, you have clear. I find everything's very clearly delineated. Like strength is measuring your physical might and power, overcoming obstacles through uh, expressions of force, basically. Constitution measures fortitude and resilience, and that's really overcoming obstacles through toughness, endurance, those kinds of things. Agility is quickness and dexterity, acrobatic ability. Charisma or charm, willpower, force of personality. Intellect is knowledge and cunning. Erudition. Um, and I found that the wisdom, actually getting rid of the wisdom stat, as much as I like D&D's method, I think they have a good method. It's not like it's bad or anything. I do think that wisdom and intellect often get blurred. And again, there are people who say different things about it, but in general, I think they're pretty blurry in a lot of cases. And even when you separate more the willpower and the charm and the force of personality into charisma, which the word really just means your giftedness, your force of yourself, and then intellect, the keenness of your mind, acuity of your mind, your memory, cunning, problem solving. Obviously, you do have things like social intelligence and such, but I think in general, like intellect, it's a pretty clear delineation. Whereas when you have wisdom in there, wisdom is like your enlightenment and moral enlightenment, which really shouldn't be gauged as a stat because your morality really shouldn't be factored into that. Like you have an evil cleric who has high wisdom. Was he really very wise? He's created this cult. Is that a wise person in the moral sense? No. So it doesn't really work. And then wisdom with regards to like practical knowledge, that can really just be your intellect, in a sense, your practical knowledge, and things like perception. That's really can be the keenness of your mind, your faculties to notice things. I don't think I think it creates some confusion. And so Rin has these 5, and this is how the main way in which you interact with the world as a character. You make a check to interact with the world. So like strength, um, you kicking in a door. Constitution, you're swimming for hours on end. Agility, you're sprinting away and chasing somebody down. Charisma, you're trying to sweet talk a barmaid into giving you information that she shouldn't. Intellect, you're trying to decipher a set of glyphs an old pyramid to figure out what they mean. Um, and then when you do have overlap in some physical things, but it's more like when you do have that, like something like swimming, if you're trying to swim against a current, it would be a strength check. If you're trying to swim, you've been shipwrecked and you're trying to make it to a distant island and swim on for hours, that'd be constitution. If you're trying to swim through like an old shipwreck and go through the holes and the get through little portholes and things and swim through it, that would be an agility check. You're trying to swim quickly, that would be an agility check. And similar thing with strength. If you're trying to, leap over a barrier while you've got a like a load, you're carrying like a fallen comrade and jumping over a barrier, that would be a strength check. Um, an agility check would be just like leaping a far distance quickly. So I think it's actually pretty clear. this delineation here. It's really solid. It works really well in actual play, and it's not far from the classic D&D setup that many systems have. Um, and then features. I'm probably not going to talk about features right now. Class features will be a separate video. But proficiencies, Rin has not just a generic skill set that anyone has access to. That's essentially your attributes, and then another area that the features do address, which I guess I'll address features as they pertain to skills, but not in general. So attributes, just general, you could say generic skills. And then proficiencies are specialized skills that only you can only test them if you have them. So like the thief has an ability, for instance, called climb walls, which might seem to be uh, just a climbing skill, but it's not. It's the ability to climb quickly, climb difficult surfaces quickly and quietly. So it's stealth and speed. So you want to scale up the side of a wall quickly without anyone knowing you, leap over the wall, scale up the road. You can do it. It's just a climb walls check. It's an extraordinary ability. Anyone else who wants to climb over, it's going to have to throw up a rope, a grappling hook, make some noise, climb up slowly, maybe have to make a stealth check if they want to be not heard. The thief can just furtively sneak up. So it's an extraordinary ability that you have to have the proficiency to attempt. And same with arcane lore. It's not just knowledge, not just the barbarian knowing, oh, this is a lightning spell, lightning shooting out of this rune. It's you can interact with arcane magic. You can identify it. It's a really ability to manipulate arcane things and understand them. It's detailed lore, knowledge of magical creatures, their qualities, their habits, their histories. So it's not just something that a random thief or barbarian would even have a chance to be able to do. Like wizards can a magical trap, a wizard can deactivate it with arcane lore potentially. If it backfires, it can go poorly, but that's not something a barbarian could ever do. He can just smash the trap, but these are specialized skills, and it works really well in Rin. I find to distinguish that distinction. I think it works better, at least for what I'm doing with Rin, than a generic skill system. That provides a lot more to the archetypes. It strengthens them and makes the characters interact with the world in a fundamentally different way. When you have certain proficiencies, you have fundamentally different set of options in dealing with the world than another class. So those are the proficiencies, and then features, which I'm actually going to switch the barbarian class to demonstrate some of this. And this is where they kind of add a little bit more of a nuance to than just it's either an attribute check or it's a proficiency check. Anybody can do an attribute check. A proficiency check is so it kind of goes a middle way first, and I'll explain how that works. So the barbarian, he has, you see, he's got good athletic, he's got high strength, high con, high agility, bad charisma for the most part, and really bad intellect. So that's where his attributes give him a predilection towards being good at certain, you could say, skill checks. The attributes functioning as generic skill checks. Then he has a set snares in survival. Survival is, again, not just general survival, but it's really specialized abilities, knowledge of the natural world, beasts, being able to do kind of feats of survival beyond the norm. And then set snares are setting natural traps, constructing them quickly and effectively using materials found in the wild. And this is only something he can really. The ranger also has this, a little better version of it rating wise, but if you have set snares, it gives you a fundamental set of abilities that aren't available to other characters. The thief doesn't know how to set these things up, even the wizard certainly doesn't. The warrior doesn't. You have to have the proficiencies. So again, the specialized proficiencies, the general attributes skill system, and then an additional element from features. And several classes have this. The barbarian gains a bonus on all attribute checks made to climb, jump, run, and swim. So this is one of the features to we're only going to be looking at the skill part of athletics, because you also have the part where you get combat abilities. But as far as the skill element, he gains bonuses to athletics, which athletics ranges from +1 to +3 when he's climbing, jumping, running, or swimming. And that could be to strength, con, or agility. So if he's trying to swim for hours on end with a con check, his constitution's 2, it'd normally be a +2, which is a solid bonus. But if his athletics is at +3, he's got a +5. So he has good at con, but particularly when he's doing something athletic, he gets an additional bonus that scales based on how athletic he is, how high his percentile is. And the same with jumping, running, swimming. If he's trying to, let's just say he's got the wizard, he's thrown him over his shoulder, he's going to leap, he's going to leap away from monsters and try to get him to safety because the monsters are in pursuit. It's a bunch of orcs, so they don't jump very well. So the barbarian picks the wizard, leaps across the cliff. It would be a strength check to leap with a heavy. Let's just say he's got a +3 strength, but if he just say he's got a +3 athletics, it'd be a +6. So he can vault himself over through. Not only he's immensely strong, any high strength character could do that. He's even better at athletic activities. This is kind of an in between where there are things that any class can attempt, but you're just better at them, and this is where the features come in. The other example for the barbarian, this is why I picked the barbarian in this case, is the might. So might, in addition to its really powerful combat abilities that you distribute your percentile to purchase, the barbarian receives a bonus to strength checks when exerting brute force upon a creature or object, such as when bursting out of manacles or kicking an orc off a cliff. So again, a warrior with a +3 strength and the barbarian are both going to make strength checks with +3. But when the barbarian is just doing brute force, kind of like the bend bars and, bend the bars on this thing, just rip it apart, that's going to be a might check. So it's so in it, he's chained with manacles, and he's got, let's just max it out. He's got a +3 strength and a +3 might. He +6 was a huge bonus. He just rips out and breaks them. The manacles, which other classes wouldn't even have a chance to do. So this is where, and I find this tripartite system functions really well as a skill design, because you don't the character class sheet. And again, I think other skill systems are good. I don't think they're necessarily bad. I think they have their advantages. But I think this tripartite way of doing it is really solid because it gives very clear archetypical skill sets with these simple, in simple ways. So you don't have a list of 30 skills, or like the Dark Eye RPG. I don't know how many skills. They had a ton, which it's a cool system. But again, I don't want to have a whole sheet just for my skills. I want to have my character sheet all on one page and straightforward. So when I'm a barbarian, I've got my attributes for normal things. I've got my specialized survival and set snare. Survival checks can be used, to get out of all kinds of perils in the wilderness and avoid them, mitigate their hazards. Set snares can be used to trap enemies, and in expanded rules, there'll be more intricate rules for set snares. These are just kind of general, but they can set up all kinds of tripwires, set a trap to trap a warg in it, get him hit by loose a log that comes down and smacks the ogre in the face when he trips. Those kind of things. Specialized skills that only they can really set up or know how to do properly. And then the skill areas where your normal abilities, your normal attribute checks are augmented through features are just another element. So you kind of have the basic checks, the specialized proficiencies, and then you have features that are adding to the basic checks on top of, when the features, barbarians being very athletic, being very mighty, they're naturally getting thematic bonuses when appropriate. And the thief has this as well with deafness. And deafness is added to a bunch of different thieving type activities that anybody can attempt, like picking locks. I don't have the thief up here, but deafness is added just like athletics or might, except it goes up to +1 to +4, the larger bonus. But anytime the thief is picking a pocket, in addition to the regular agility check that anybody could make, let's say the barbarian has a +1 agility, he'd have a +1 in picking a pocket. The thief, let's say, has a +2 agility, but he has a +3 deafness, that'd be +5 to picking a pocket, opening a lock, things that anybody can attempt, but the thief is just better at. And this is how Rin approaches that. And then in the case of even like, there are some other ways of interacting, like the thieves climb walls. If he's just doing regular climbing, he just adds his climb walls on top of the regular climb check. So it almost functions like a feature bonus, because the thief is so good at climbing, it would make sense that if he's just climbing regular things, he's almost never going to fail. You could almost obviate the check in a lot of cases, but the rule is in there. So this functions really nicely. It keeps the character sheets very manageable and straightforward, and it's tied into archetype. Your archetype sets your attribute distribution. The proficiencies determine which specialized skills you have that you can only attempt. Unique skills. Again, a few classes share some, but for the most part, it's a unique set. And then your features augment your regular attribute checks according to the theme of the class. So that's essentially what I wanted to talk about in skill design. And I'm very interested in if other people have different perspectives, what they think of the RIN approach to just to skills, and what they've seen in other systems, and what they like. So that's going to be all for the discussion on attributes and skills.